The courtroom was silent, so silent you could hear the nervous breaths of the people watching. The air was thick, like everyone was waiting for a bomb to go off. A 15-year-old boy, thin and pale with wide, tired eyes, stood up from his seat slowly. His hands trembled a little, but his voice didn't shake. Not even once. He turned, looked around the room, then did something no one expected. He raised his right hand and pointed straight at the police officer sitting near the witness stand. "I know what you did," the boy said, loud and clear. "You think no one saw you, but I did. And now, everyone's going to know." Gasps broke out across the room. The officer's face went pale. A woman in the back dropped her phone. Even the judge leaned forward, eyebrows raised, confused. The officer opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't say a word. The judge banged the gavel. "Order. Order in the court." But it was too late. The room had already exploded into whispers and wide-eyed stares. And just like that, everything changed. But how did it get to this moment? Why would a 15-year-old boy call out a police officer in front of everyone? Let's go back to where it all began. It was a chilly Wednesday morning in November, and the sun peeked out from behind heavy clouds. Jason Walker zipped up his hoodie, grabbed his backpack, and stepped out of the house with a sigh. He lived in a small, beat-up apartment with his mom and little sister, Haley, in a rough part of Cleveland, Ohio. His mom worked 2 jobs, one at a diner in the mornings and one cleaning offices at night. Jason barely saw her. And ever since his dad left when he was 10, he'd taken on more than most kids his age. He walked Haley to school every day, made her lunch, and helped her with her homework. It wasn't easy, but Jason never complained. Jason was quiet at school. He didn't have many friends, but he wasn't picked on either. He kept to himself, kept his grades up, and kept his head down. The teachers liked him, and the janitor, Mr. Reyes, always gave him a smile and a fist bump in the hall. But something started to change about a month ago. It began when Jason found a wallet in the parking lot behind the school. He picked it up, planning to turn it in, but then curiosity got the better of him. He opened it just to see who it belonged to. Inside was over $300 in cash. His stomach twisted. That was more money than his mom made in a week. He could buy groceries, pay the light bill that was already overdue, maybe even get Haley a real winter coat. But then he saw the badge. It was a police officer's wallet. And that's when everything went wrong. Jason turned the wallet in. He handed it straight to the principal, who promised to contact the officer. The next day, the officer showed up. His name was Officer Grayson. Tall, muscular, a clean-shaven face and cold blue eyes. At first, he thanked Jason and even shook his hand. But then things got weird. Jason started seeing him more often. Outside school, in his neighborhood, at the corner store. One night, Jason was walking home when a car slowed down beside him. The window rolled down, and Officer Grayson stared at him. "You a smart kid, Jason," he said calmly. "You know how to mind your business. Let's keep it that way." Jason didn't say anything. He just nodded and walked faster. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. Terribly wrong. A few nights later, Jason was walking past the old warehouse on 6th Street. He cut through the alley like he always did. But that night, he heard something. Voices. Angry, rushed voices. He peeked around the corner. What he saw made his blood run cold. Officer Grayson was there. And he wasn't alone. He was handing over something, a bag, to a man Jason had seen before. A man who hung around with gang members. The two shook hands quickly, then split up. Jason ducked behind a dumpster and didn't breathe until they were gone. He didn't sleep that night. What was in the bag? Money? Drugs? Guns? He wanted to tell someone. But who would believe a 15-year-old kid over a decorated police officer? Still, the guilt ate at him. Then things got worse. A week later, his friend Luis, one of the few people Jason actually talked to at school, got arrested. They said he stole from a store. But Jason knew Luis. He wouldn't do that. Jason tried to tell the principal, but nobody listened. Then Luis's mom moved him to another school. Gone. Just like that. Then it happened again. Another kid. This time from Haley's class. The boy's dad got into trouble. Everyone said it was drugs, but the family swore it wasn't true. Jason started to notice a pattern. People connected to Officer Grayson, they were disappearing. Being blamed. Being scared into silence. And Jason was next. He found a note in his locker. "Keep your mouth shut. This is your last warning." But Jason had already made a decision. He couldn't be quiet anymore. Not when innocent people were getting hurt. He gathered everything he had. Dates, times, photos on his old phone, even a blurry video he'd managed to capture from the alley that night. He wrote it all down in a notebook and kept it hidden under the floorboard in his room. But just as he was about to go to someone he trusted, Mr. Reyes, the janitor, something happened. Jason came home one day and found his apartment trashed. Papers scattered. Furniture flipped. Haley's drawings torn. Someone had been looking for something, and they didn't find it. Because Jason had already moved the notebook. He knew what he had to do. So he waited for the right moment. And that moment came during a public hearing at the courthouse. It wasn't even supposed to be about Officer Grayson. It was about funding for schools. But Jason knew the officer would be there. He always showed up to these things to look good. Jason asked to speak. He told them he was a student with something important to say. And that's how he ended up here. In this moment. With Jason pointing his finger, voice loud and clear, shaking the walls of the courtroom with 7 words. "I know what you did, officer." The judge stood up. The officer did, too. People began whispering again, this time louder. Jason pulled something from his backpack. The notebook. He held it in both hands like it was made of gold. "I have proof," he said. "It's all in here." The officer took a step forward. Jason stepped back. "Don't move," shouted someone from the back. "Let the boy speak." And then, suddenly, the power in the courtroom went out. All the lights snapped off at once. People screamed. Jason clutched the notebook tightly to his chest. In the darkness, someone was moving fast. Chairs scraped. Footsteps rushed toward him. Someone grabbed Jason's arm. And that's when he realized this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jason barely had time to react. The hand around his arm tightened, yanking him backward. His heart slammed against his ribs like it was trying to escape. The courtroom was still pitch black. People were yelling. Chairs tipped over. The judge was shouting for order, but his voice was swallowed by the chaos. Jason twisted his arm, trying to break free. "Let go of me," he shouted. "Jason, it's me," a voice hissed back. It wasn't Officer Grayson. It wasn't anyone he recognized. The grip loosened just enough for Jason to pull free and stumble backward, slamming into a wooden bench. He held the notebook to his chest like it was his last piece of hope. Then, just as suddenly as they went out, the lights flickered back on. People blinked, confused, looking around. Some were still on the floor. Others were standing, searching for who had grabbed Jason. But whoever it was, they were gone. Jason's eyes darted to the side. Officer Grayson was gone, too. The seat he'd been in moments ago was now empty. The judge pounded the gavel again. "Clear this courtroom. Everyone out. Except the boy." A bailiff, red-faced and panicked, pushed his way toward Jason. Jason's breath came in quick bursts. The notebook was still in his hand, still safe. But something had changed. He wasn't just a scared boy anymore. He was a target. A few minutes later, the courtroom had emptied out. The buzz of voices and the shuffle of feet were gone. Just Jason, the judge, 2 guards, and a tall, thin woman in a blue blazer remained. She walked up to him slowly and knelt beside his bench. "Jason, I'm Assistant District Attorney Rachel Turner," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Can you tell me exactly what just happened?" Jason nodded. He sat down slowly on the bench, notebook in his lap. "I think someone tried to grab me. And Officer Grayson, he left." The judge, a stern older man with sharp glasses, stepped down from his platform and joined them. "Do you have any idea why someone would try to stop you from talking?" Jason hesitated. Then he opened the notebook. Page after page of handwritten notes, photos taped in place, receipts, even a rough map of the alley. He held it out. "I think Officer Grayson is working with a gang. I've seen him meet with someone more than once. I think he's planting evidence on people. Kids. Making people disappear." Rachel Turner's expression didn't change, but the judge took a sharp breath. "I didn't say anything before because I was scared," Jason said, his voice quieter now. "But now I know. I can't just stand by." Rachel glanced at the notebook, then at the bailiff. "Get this boy somewhere safe," she ordered. "And get me a full protection detail." Jason was moved out the back of the courthouse, escorted by 2 officers in plain clothes. They didn't speak much, just led him to an unmarked car and told him to stay low in the back seat. As they drove through the city streets, Jason looked out the window, watching everything fly by. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from his mom. "Where are you?" "Haley's asking. Please call me." Jason's throat tightened. He wanted to go home. He wanted things to go back to normal. But they couldn't. Not now. He started to type back a message, But before he could hit send, the car suddenly swerved. "Hold on," the driver shouted. Tires screeched. A black SUV had cut them off at the intersection. Jason ducked as the windows of the SUV rolled down. For a second, he saw him. Officer Grayson. He wasn't in uniform anymore. But Jason would never forget that face. Then came the gunshots. "Down! Get down!" The officer in the passenger seat yelled, pulling Jason to the floor. Glass shattered. The driver swerved again, tires screaming across the pavement. People on the sidewalk screamed and ran for cover. Jason's heart was thudding so loud, he couldn't hear anything else. This wasn't just about a wallet anymore. This was about survival. The driver hit the gas. The SUV tried to follow, but traffic blocked them in. The unmarked car sped through red lights, twisting through alleys, until they finally reached a quiet neighborhood near the edge of the city. Jason was taken to a small, hidden safe house. A plain brick building with boarded-up windows and a steel door. Inside, it was warm, quiet, and smelled faintly of old coffee. "This is temporary," one of the officers said. "Just until we figure out what's going on." "You did good, kid." Jason just nodded. He sat down on the couch and hugged his knees to his chest. He didn't feel good. He felt terrified. That night, he barely slept. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind outside made his stomach twist. He kept the notebook under his pillow like a lifeline. The next morning, Rachel Turner showed up. She looked tired, but determined. "Jason," she said, sitting across from him, "we're going to take your notebook seriously. I've got a team looking into every piece of evidence you collected. But this is going to take time. We need to be careful." Jason nodded. "I just wanted to stop," he said. "I want people to be safe again." Rachel gave him a soft look. "You're incredibly brave. Most adults wouldn't do what you just did." She stood to leave, but before she did, she turned back. "There's something else," she said. "We traced one of the photos in your notebook. The man meeting Officer Grayson. He's not just anyone. His name is Dale Rowe. We've been trying to pin him for years. He's dangerous. And now we think Grayson's been helping him all along." Jason felt the weight of those words hit his chest. Dale Rowe. He'd heard that name before. Whispers in the neighborhood. People afraid to say it out loud. Now he was caught in the middle of something way bigger than he'd imagined. Later that day, as Jason stood by the window watching kids ride bikes down the street, he saw something strange. A silver sedan parked across from the safe house. The windows were tinted. It hadn't been there earlier. Jason's skin prickled. He stepped back from the window, heart pounding. Then he heard the noise. A click behind him. He turned slowly. And there, standing in the hallway of the safe house, was someone he thought he could trust. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone holding a gun. Jason froze. "You shouldn't have talked, kid," the person said coldly. And that's when Jason knew. He wasn't safe. Not anymore. Jason couldn't breathe. The hallway stretched before him like a tunnel, narrowing as his fear grew. The man at the end of it, someone Jason had seen just hours ago, someone he had trusted, was now pointing a gun at him. It wasn't Officer Grayson. This betrayal cut deeper. It was Officer Reynolds. He was one of the plainclothes cops who had escorted Jason to the safe house. Friendly, with a soft southern accent and tired eyes that made him seem like a man who'd seen too much. Jason had even felt a little safer when Reynolds was nearby. Now, Reynolds wasn't saying anything else. Just standing there, arm outstretched, gun steady. Jason took a step back. "Why are you doing this?" Reynolds sighed like the weight of the world had finally landed on his shoulders. "You weren't supposed to talk, Jason. You were supposed to do what you were told. Now everything's falling apart." "I have everything in the notebook," Jason said, stalling. His voice shook. "People know now. You can't cover it up anymore." Reynolds took a step forward. "You think that matters? You think one notebook is going to stop men like Grayson? Or Rowe? You have no idea how deep this goes." Jason's back hit the wall. There was nowhere else to go. His eyes darted to the side, searching for something, anything. Then he saw it. A floor lamp. Close enough to grab. Jason waited. Reynolds moved forward again, raising the gun just slightly. And that's when Jason moved. He dove to the side, grabbed the lamp, and swung it with all the strength his 15-year-old body had. The metal cracked against Reynolds' wrist, sending the gun clattering to the floor. Jason didn't wait. He ran. Down the hall. Into the living room. He slammed the door shut and pushed the couch against it. His chest was heaving, adrenaline screaming through his veins. His notebook was still on the table. He snatched it up, tore open the front door, and bolted into the street. The silver sedan was still there, engine idling. Jason didn't stop to think. He ran the opposite direction, darting between houses, leaping fences, cutting through backyards. Dogs barked. A man shouted from a porch. But Jason didn't look back. He didn't stop running until his legs gave out, and he collapsed in the grass behind an old shed in someone's yard. He curled into a ball, notebook pressed to his chest, trying to breathe. Tears blurred his vision. He didn't even know where he was anymore. But one thing was clear. Reynolds wasn't on it, and Jason was completely alone. Hours passed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a purple haze across the sky. Jason hadn't moved from behind the shed. Every sound made him flinch. Every headlight that passed in the distance made his pulse jump. His phone was dead. No way to call for help. No one he could trust. No one except Mr. Reyes, the janitor. He was the only adult who ever treated Jason like his voice mattered. The only one who noticed when he looked tired, when he skipped lunch, when he was scared. Jason remembered something. Mr. Reyes had once said, "If you're ever in trouble, real trouble, and you don't know where to go, come to the rec center. Back door. I'm always there late." It was risky, but it was all Jason had. He wiped his face, pulled the hoodie over his head, and slipped back into the night. The walk was long. Jason stuck to shadows, avoiding main roads. His body ached. His stomach growled, but he didn't stop. The city glowed in the distance, and finally, after nearly 2 hours, he saw it. The old brick rec center. Faded paint, cracked windows, and the back door, just like Mr. Reyes said. Jason knocked once, then twice. Nothing. He knocked again. A moment later, the door creaked open. Mr. Reyes stood there in a worn sweater and jeans, holding a mop. His eyes widened. "Jason? What? You okay, Mijo?" Jason collapsed into his arms. "I need help," he whispered. "I don't know who to trust anymore." Mr. Reyes locked the door and sat Jason down in a quiet office near the gym. He heated a cup of soup in a small microwave and gave him water, a phone charger, and space to breathe. Jason told him everything, from the wallet, to the alley, to Officer Grayson, to the courtroom, and finally, Reynolds. Mr. Reyes listened without interrupting once. When Jason finished, Mr. Reyes leaned back and let out a low whistle. "You've been through more in 2 weeks than some people face in a lifetime," he said quietly. "But you did the right thing. Speaking up like that takes guts." "I'm scared," Jason admitted. "They're everywhere. I don't know who's helping them. And now they know I have proof." Mr. Reyes nodded slowly. Then he stood up, walked to the old file cabinet in the corner, and pulled something out. A dusty box. He set it on the table. Inside were files. Photos. Notes. Jason frowned. "What's all this?" Mr. Reyes's face hardened. "My son, Alex. He was a rookie cop. Good kid. Smart. Too honest. He started digging into some shady stuff going on with a few officers a couple years ago. Disappeared one night. They said it was a gang shooting." He looked at Jason with sad eyes. "But I never believed them. Not for 1 second." Jason's chest tightened. "You think it was the same people?" Mr. Reyes nodded. "I do." Jason looked down at the notebook in his hands, then at the box of files. "What if we put them together?" he said suddenly. "Your files. My notes. Maybe it's enough. Enough to make them slip up. Get caught." Mr. Reyes stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You really are something, kid." They stayed up all night, going through everything. Comparing notes. Finding connections. Putting dates together. A timeline began to form. A web of names and photos. Grayson. Reynolds. Rowe. A few others, too. Judges, business owners, even school officials. It went deep. By sunrise, they had a binder full of evidence. A complete copy of the notebook and Reyes's files. And Jason had an idea. If they could get this in the right hands, someone with real power, they could still turn things around. But they'd have to move fast. Because Jason's face was on the news. Mr. Reyes switched on the TV in the corner of the office. There it was. 15-year-old boy accuses officer in court. Now missing. Jason's photo filled the screen. Rachel Turner was being interviewed. "We are doing everything in our power to locate Jason Walker and bring him to safety. If anyone knows where he is, please come forward." Jason stepped closer. A familiar figure appeared behind her, watching from the crowd. It was Reynolds, smiling. And that's when Jason knew. They were planning something. And the clock was ticking. Jason stood frozen in front of the tiny TV, his breath catching in his throat. There he was, Officer Reynolds, in plain sight, standing calmly behind Rachel Turner during her interview, hands in his coat pockets, as if he didn't just try to shoot a 15-year-old kid less than 24 hours ago. He's hiding in plain sight, Jason whispered. Mr. Reyes narrowed his eyes at the screen. He's got friends in high places. They're protecting him. Jason clenched his fists. What if they're using her? What if Rachel Turner doesn't know she's standing next to a traitor? She's smart, Reyes said. But these people are good at hiding. They've been doing this for years. They lie with their faces. Jason looked down at the binder they'd been working on all night. It was thick, filled with names, dates, photos, proof that something dark and dangerous had been growing inside the city for a long time. We need to get this to someone who'll actually do something with it, Jason said. Mr. Reyes nodded. I have a friend. Her name's Angela Price. She's a reporter for Channel 9, one of the few I still trust. If we can get this to her, and she runs the story before they can stop it, then it's out there, Jason finished. They can't bury it. A loud bang at the front of the rec center cut through their words like a blade. They froze. Another bang. And another. Not a knock. A battering ram. Jason's heart dropped into his stomach. They found us. Mr. Reyes jumped into action. He stuffed the binder into a gym bag, zipped it up, and handed it to Jason. Back door. Now, what about you? I'll buy you time. No. Reyes grabbed him by the shoulders. You've come too far, Jason. This is bigger than me now. You're the only one who can end it. Tears welled in Jason's eyes, but he nodded. He took the bag, sprinted down the hallway, and ducked out the back just as the front doors burst open and heavy boots stormed inside. The morning light was sharp, blinding. Jason kept running. By midday, he was back on the streets, wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled down low. He used alleyways, parking garages, side streets, anything to avoid being seen. He kept the bag close, never letting go of the strap. He had one name, one hope, Angela Price. He made his way to Channel 9's building, a tall glass tower near the edge of downtown. Crowded sidewalks made it easier to blend in, but every time he saw a cop car, he ducked. When he finally reached the lobby, a security guard stepped in front of him. Hey kid, you lost. Jason's voice was dry and cracked. I need to see Angela Price. It's urgent. Life or death. The guard narrowed his eyes. She's busy. Jason opened the gym bag, showing just enough of the binder inside. Tell her it's about Officer Grayson. The guard's expression changed instantly. He reached for the phone and spoke quietly. A moment later, the elevator dinged, and a woman in a gray blazer and thick black glasses stepped out. She was taller than Jason expected, with a sharp face and eyes that never seemed to blink. You the kid with the story? She asked. Jason just nodded. Come with me. Angela Price's office was filled with newspaper clippings, photos, and stacks of paper. A giant whiteboard listed names, dates, and question marks. Jason noticed one name written near the top in red marker. Dale Rowe. I've been trying to take down Rowe's network for 3 years, Angela said as she closed the door behind them. You say you've got evidence tying a police officer to him. Jason handed her the binder. It's all in there. Me and Mr. Reyes put it together. Angela opened the binder and started reading. Page after page. Her eyebrows slowly rose. My God, she murmured. You're just a kid. Jason looked down. Not anymore. Angela looked up at him, her expression shifting. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll scan every page, back it all up, send it to every contact I have, lawyers, editors, even federal agents. If they kill the story here, someone else will pick it up. You've lit a fire, Jason. Jason's lips pressed together. But I need to protect you, too, she said. They'll come after you again. Jason looked up. I don't want protection. I want justice. Angela smiled softly. You're going to get both. She stepped out of the office to start the process. Jason sat in the chair, staring at the floor, the adrenaline slowly wearing off, his body aching from exhaustion. His thoughts drifted to Haley. His mom. Were they safe? Had anyone told them what was going on? His phone had a sliver of charge. He turned it on. 16 missed calls. For voicemails from his mom. And a text from a blocked number. You talk, your sister disappears. Jason's blood ran cold. He stared at the screen, the words burning into his brain. They had Haley. He didn't know how. He didn't know when. But they had her. Angela returned a few minutes later, smiling proudly. It's done. We have copies in 6 places. I've got an interview set for tonight, prime time. It's going to air, Jason. Jason didn't smile. He showed her the message. Angela's smile faded instantly. No, she whispered. They wouldn't. They would, Jason said. They already tried to kill me. They trashed our apartment. They've already done worse to other people. Angela straightened. We'll alert the police. The real ones. Not Grayson's crew. Jason shook his head. I need to find her. I can't wait. If they think I'm going to talk on the news tonight, they'll do something before it airs. Angela hesitated. Then we'll go to the press now. Release everything early. I'll post it online right now. Jason grabbed her arm. If we do that, they'll panic. They'll hurt her before anyone can stop them. I need to find her first. Angela looked torn. You don't even know where they're keeping her, she said. Jason's brain was spinning. But I know someone who might. He opened the binder again, flipping to a page near the back. It was a blurry photo he'd taken the night he saw Grayson in the alley. There was another man in the background. Bald. Covered in tattoos. Jason had labeled him possible gang contact. Tat neck. Jason remembered where he'd seen him before. The old boxing gym on Ashland Avenue. It was where the gang guys trained. Jason had passed it before. Once, he saw a man in a black hoodie guarding the door. Haley had pointed out the cool graffiti on the wall. What if that's where they were keeping her? Jason looked up at Angela. I need to get there. Now. Angela stared at him. You're going to walk straight into a gang hideout alone? Jason stood, pulling the hood back over his head. His eyes were tired, but sharp. I'm not scared anymore. Angela looked at him, long and hard. Then, quietly, she pulled open her drawer and handed him something small and silver. A recorder. Take this, she said. Keep it hidden. Record everything. If you don't come back, I'll have someone waiting nearby. If anything happens, they'll storm the place. Jason took it and slipped it into his pocket. Angela touched his shoulder. You're braver than most people I've ever met. Jason nodded and left the office, the gym bag slung over his shoulder. Outside, the city was dark again. Streetlights flickered. Cars rumbled by. And Jason Walker headed into the shadows. To trade his life for his sister's. He didn't know what he'd find inside the boxing gym. He didn't know if he'd walk out. But what he did know was that he wasn't going to run anymore. Jason stood across the street from the old boxing gym on Ashland Avenue, hidden behind a half-dead tree. The building looked abandoned. Peeling paint, cracked windows, flickering sign. But it was far from empty. 2 men were outside, one sitting on a crate, the other leaning against the wall with a phone pressed to his ear. Both had the same look Jason had seen too many times lately. Cold eyes, twitchy fingers, and the kind of silence that always came before something bad. Jason's heart beat hard in his chest. The recorder Angela gave him was in his hoodie pocket, already running. His hands were slick with sweat despite the cold. He scanned the area. 2 exits, one in the front, one in the alley around back. If he got inside and needed to run, that alley would be his only shot. He crossed the street slowly, head down, trying to look small, invisible. The man on the crate noticed him first. Hey. Jason stopped. The man squinted. You lost or something? I'm here to see Dale Rowe, Jason said quietly. I know he's in there. That got both their attention. The guy on the phone lowered it. The one on the crate stood up. Kid like you don't just come asking for Rowe, the man said, stepping closer. What's your name? Jason swallowed. Tell him Jason Walker is here. He knows who I am. For a moment, they didn't move. Then the man with the phone grunted and walked inside. The other one stayed out front, watching Jason like a hawk. Minutes passed. The door finally opened again. The man waved him in. Jason stepped inside, heart thundering. It was dark, smelled like sweat and leather and something sour. Old punching bags hung from chains. A few flickering lights overhead. Jason followed the man down a hall past a weight room, past a wall covered in fight posters, until they reached a heavy steel door. Inside was a room that didn't fit the rest of the gym. The walls were clean. The floor was carpeted. There were leather chairs and a big wooden desk. Bottles of expensive whiskey lined the shelves. And sitting behind the desk, in a black turtleneck and gold chain, was Dale Rowe. He didn't stand, didn't smile. Jason Walker, he said, his voice deep and smooth like a jazz singer who'd smoked too many cigars. I've been expecting you. Jason's mouth was dry. He stepped inside, keeping his eyes steady. Where's my sister? Rowe chuckled softly. Straight to business. I like that. He reached for a cigar on the desk, but didn't light it. You've caused quite the mess, you know. Grayson's losing his mind. Reynolds too. People are nervous. Jason stayed quiet. Ro looked up, meeting his eyes. You could have walked away. You could have kept your mouth shut. But you didn't. You think you're brave? I think I'm right, Jason said. Ro's lips curled. You've got fire. I respect that. He stood and walked over to a side table, picked up a remote, and pressed a button. A TV on the wall blinked on. A video feed appeared. Jason's breath caught. Haley. She was in a room, plain, with a bed and a chair. She looked scared, but not hurt. She was sitting quietly, hugging a stuffed animal. The camera angle showed a small window behind her. Jason's fists clenched. Ro turned to him. She's fine. For now. But this game you're playing? It needs to end. I'm not playing, Jason said. I gave everything to the press. Tonight, the whole city will know what you've done. Ro's smile faded. I know. He walked back to his desk, sat down, and steepled his fingers. But I have a different idea. A better one. You go on TV. You tell them you made it up. Say you were scared. Say you were trying to get attention. You do that, and your sister goes home. Jason's blood ran cold. I won't lie, he said. Ro raised an eyebrow. Then she doesn't go home. Silence stretched between them. Jason's hands were shaking. You're not going to hurt her, he said finally. Because if you do, it's over. I have the video. The notebook. Everything. It's already out there. Ro stood up slowly. You sure you want to test that? Jason pulled something out of his pocket. A small wireless device. A live feed transmitter. Angela gave it to him on the way out, just in case. It's already live, Jason said. Everything you're saying? It's being recorded. Sent straight to Channel 9. If I don't walk out of here in 10 minutes, the footage airs early. Ro stared at him. Jason stared back. The air was thick and still. Then Ro smiled. Not a warm smile. Not even an amused one. Just cold. He walked back to the table, poured himself a drink, and sat. You've got guts, he said. I give you that. He reached into his pocket and tossed something on the table. A key. Room 208. Crosswinds Motel. Take her. But you better pray this story gets buried. Because if it doesn't, there'll be nowhere you can hide. Jason snatched the key, backing toward the door. I'm not the one who should be hiding. Ro said nothing. Jason turned and ran. The motel was only 3 blocks away. Jason got there in minutes, heart pounding so hard it hurt. He ran to room 208, unlocked the door with shaking hands. And there she was. Haley. She sat up the second he stepped in. Jason. He dropped to his knees and hugged her tight. I got you, he whispered. I got you. She started crying. They said you were gone. I'm here. I'm okay. They stayed like that for a long time. Angela Price met them at the motel with a police escort. Not Cleveland PD, but federal agents who'd already been tipped off thanks to her contacts. The recording was secure. The broadcast had already been scheduled. That night, the segment aired on every major news channel. Teen hero blows lid off police corruption ring. The footage played. Ro's face. His voice. His threat. The notebook pages. Jason and Haley were taken to a new safe location, this time under full protection. Rachel Turner joined them, pale and shaken but grateful beyond words. She promised indictments would follow. Arrests were already underway. Jason had finally done it. He'd survived. He'd won. But just as he laid his head down that night, holding Haley close, he got one more message on his phone. No name. No number. Just 3 chilling words. It's not over. Jason stared at the glowing screen in the dark. It's not over. 3 little words that felt like a knife twisting in his gut. He sat up, careful not to wake Haley, who had finally fallen asleep in the cot next to his. Her breathing was soft, her fingers still clutching the same stuffed animal she'd been holding in that cold motel room. She looked peaceful now. Safe. But Jason wasn't. He got out of bed, phone still in hand, and stepped quietly into the hallway of the safe house. It was nicer than the last one, some kind of federal safe location outside city limits. There were security cameras, fingerprint locks, armed agents at the front and back doors. But still, that message had gotten through. Rachel Turner sat at the kitchen table, eyes bloodshot, coffee cup shaking in her hand as she scrolled through emails. She looked up when she saw him. You couldn't sleep either, huh? Jason held out his phone. She read the message. Her face paled. Where did this come from? She asked, already pulling her own phone out. No number. Just showed up. Rachel cursed under her breath. I'll have the text trace it. But it might have been sent through a bouncing signal. Could be from anywhere. They're playing games. Jason didn't sit. He didn't blink. They're planning something. Rachel rubbed her temples. The good news is the broadcast worked. We got them rattled. Roe's business is being raided right now. Grayson and Reynolds have warrants out for their arrest. Jason shook his head. That's what scares me. When people like them get desperate, they get dangerous. Jason didn't need to finish the sentence. Rachel leaned forward, lowering her voice. There's something you need to know. One of the officers we arrested tonight. He flipped. He started talking. Jason's eyes widened. He said Grayson had a fallback plan. Something big. He called it blackout. Supposed to go into motion if everything fell apart. Jason's stomach twisted. What kind of plan? Rachel hesitated. We don't know, but we think it's going to happen soon. Jason's mind raced. Then we need to stop it. Rachel gave him a tired smile. You're not responsible for that. You've already done more than any kid should ever have to. Jason's jaw tightened. I'm not a kid anymore. Rachel didn't argue. A loud knock on the front door startled them both. An agent appeared almost immediately, hand on his holster. I'll get it. Jason watched from the hallway as the door opened. 2 more agents stepped inside, flashing badges. They spoke quietly, but Jason couldn't hear what they were saying. Then one of them turned toward him. Tall, black trench coat, eyes like cold glass. Jason froze. He knew that face. He'd seen it once, in the blurry photo Angela showed him from a surveillance cam near the courthouse. The man was known only by one name. Mace. A fixer. A shadow. No official records. No known address. But whispered about by people who feared they'd be next. He was said to be the one Roe called when things needed to disappear. Evidence, problems, or people. Why was he here? Mace looked directly at Jason. Then he smiled. The other agent beside him reached into his jacket. Jason's eyes widened. No, he screamed. But he was too late. The second agent pulled out a small canister and threw it to the floor. Boom. The flashbang lit the hallway in white fire. Jason fell back, ears ringing, blinded. Shouts. Gunfire. Screams. Jason grabbed Haley from her bed, still half asleep, and pulled her down beside the bed, shielding her with his body. Another explosion rocked the hallway. Jason's vision returned in bursts. Mace was moving through the smoke. Calm. Silent. Focused. One of the real agents tackled him, and they both crashed into a table. Jason pulled Haley to her feet. Come on. We have to go. She didn't argue. They ran. Through the side hallway, past the kitchen, out the emergency exit, and into the cold night air. A car was parked across the road, running, empty. Jason didn't think. He threw open the door, pushed Haley inside, and got behind the wheel. He'd only driven once before. Mr. Reyes had let him steer around an empty parking lot. This wasn't a parking lot. But Jason didn't care. He slammed the pedal and peeled off down the street, headlights bouncing as the car raced into the dark. Haley clutched her seatbelt, wide-eyed. Jason, where are we going? I don't know, he shouted. Somewhere safe. They were alone again. Running. Hunted. 20 minutes later, Jason pulled into an empty gas station just outside the city. He got out, pacing, thinking, trying to breathe. Haley sat in the car, watching him through the window. Then Jason heard a car pull in behind him. He spun. A familiar voice called out from the shadows. Jason. It was Angela Price. She stepped into the light, holding her press badge, her coat whipping in the wind. I've been looking everywhere for you. Jason stared at her, still dazed. How did you find us? I've been tracking every news scanner in the state, she said breathlessly. I heard about the safe house breach. I figured you'd run. You okay? Jason nodded slowly. They sent him. Mace. Angela's face twisted. I know. I don't understand, Jason said. Why now? Why attack the safe house? Angela opened her bag. Inside was a folder, thick, bound, with the word confidential stamped across it. She handed it to him. What is this? The rest of the truth, she said. Stuff we missed. Files a whistleblower sent to me an hour ago. You were right about blackout. It's real. But it's not just a plan to clean up the mess, it's worse. Jason opened the file. What he saw inside made his hands shake. Blueprints. Target maps. Schematics of electrical grids. Emergency systems. Hospitals. Water treatment plants. Angela spoke quietly beside him. They're planning to shut down the city. Cut everything. Power, water, emergency services. Total chaos. The last distraction. While everyone panics, Ro vanishes, with whatever money, weapons, or people he's still protecting. Jason looked up at her. When Angela hesitated. They said the blackout starts tomorrow night. Jason's throat tightened. That gives us 1 day. Angela nodded grimly. 1 day to stop a war. The folder felt heavier than any book Jason had ever held. Not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. Inside those pages was a plan so massive, so dangerous, it could throw the entire city into panic and darkness. A real blackout. Not just power. Not just water. Order. Safety. Hope. All of it. Wiped away in one night. Jason flipped through the pages again under the gas station's dim lights. Diagrams. Code names. Communication logs. A list of targets. He looked up at Angela, whose face was pale but determined. Why would they do this? He asked. Why destroy the city? Angela's jaw clenched. Because that's what criminals do when they're cornered. They don't try to escape. They burn the whole place down so no one follows. Jason stared at the names scrawled on one of the diagrams. Operation Blackout. Trigger point. 9 p.m., April 16th. That was tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours. He looked back at the car where Haley sat inside, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. He had barely gotten her back, barely escaped the safe house. And now this. Angela grabbed his shoulder. Jason, you're not alone. I've got connections. Good people. And we still have the proof you collected. If we can warn the right agencies. No, Jason said suddenly. Angela blinked. What? We can't just warn people. That's what we've been doing. They always get ahead of it. Always stay one step ahead. If we really want to stop this, we need to cut it off at the root. Angela's eyes narrowed. You mean Ro? Jason nodded. Not just Ro. The people who helped build this. Grayson. Reynolds. Every single one of them who's still out there. We know where they're going to strike. We have their map. We stop the blackout before it starts. Angela looked at him, stunned. You're 15, and you're talking about taking down a multi-million-dollar crime network like it's a video game. Jason looked back at the file. No, he said softly. Not like a game. Like it's real life. Angela didn't argue. She just gave a slow, serious nod. All right, let's plan it out. They drove for an hour to a warehouse Angela's contacts had secured. It had once been a storage facility for old news equipment. Now, it would be their war room. Jason spread the plans out on a folding table. Angela pulled up her laptop. Haley curled up on a blanket nearby with a hot chocolate Angela bought from a vending machine. She was watching cartoons on mute, headphones in, trying to feel normal. But she kept glancing over at Jason. She was worried. Jason smiled at her. It's going to be okay, he mouthed. She gave a small nod, but didn't look convinced. Angela tapped the screen. Based on this, they planned to knock out the city's electrical grid from 3 main points: an old substation on the east side, a water plant up north, and a telecom relay right downtown. If all 3 go offline, everything collapses. Jason studied the map. We split them up. Stop them one at a time. Angela raised an eyebrow. That's not exactly a one-man job. Jason looked at her. Then we get help. Angela sighed. You have someone in mind? He nodded. 1 hour later, they pulled up outside a small house with a basketball hoop over the garage and a broken front porch. Jason hesitated before knocking. The door opened before he could even raise his hand. Mr. Reyes stood there, eyes wide. Jason. Jason hugged him before he could say another word. You're alive, Reyes said, pulling him inside. Barely, Jason muttered. Angela stepped in behind him and introduced herself quickly. We need your help. Reyes listened as Jason explained everything. Blackout, the plans, the targets, the 24-hour deadline. When Jason finished, Reyes nodded once. Say no more. I'm in. Angela pulled out the map and laid it on the kitchen table. Jason will take the relay downtown, she said. It's the most guarded and the most technical. But he's the only one who's been inside before. Jason looked up. What? Angela shrugged. You told me you saw Grayson at the relay weeks ago when you were delivering Haley's science fair poster. You said they were loading in fake equipment, remember? Jason blinked. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a relay station. Exactly, Angela said. You know the inside. That's an advantage. Mr. Reyes pointed to the water plant. I'll take this one. I used to work in maintenance. I know the layout. Angela looked between them. That leaves me with the substation. Jason hesitated. Are you sure? Angela nodded. I've done undercover reporting in war zones, Jason. I've talked my way past armed guards in places most people wouldn't walk near. I'll be fine. Reyes stood up and slapped a hand on the table. All right, then we move at dawn. Rest now. Because tomorrow. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That night, Jason lay awake in the corner of the warehouse, staring at the rafters. Haley was curled beside him again, asleep at last. But Jason couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Rose said. You think you're brave? He didn't feel brave. He felt like a kid who'd gotten caught in something too big. But then he thought of Luis, the first friend who disappeared, the families that got torn apart, the kids who'd been blamed, his mom, Haley, even Mr. Reyes's son, Alex. And then he knew. He had to see this through, even if it meant facing down Ro himself. His eyes drifted shut just before sunrise. At 7 a.m., they loaded into 3 separate cars. Jason took one last look at Angela and Reyes before they split off. No matter what happens, he said, we meet back here before nightfall. Angela gave a nod. Reyes patted his shoulder. Make it count, kid. Jason turned toward the city skyline, where the heart of the operation waited. The telecom relay sat just a few blocks from the old courthouse where it all began. By 8 a.m., Jason was there. And he wasn't alone. 2 unmarked vans were parked near the side. Men in black vests moved in and out with crates. Jason slipped behind a dumpster, heart pounding. Then, from behind the building, he heard a voice. Low. Familiar. Grayson. Jason's heart stopped. He peeked around the edge and saw him. Officer Grayson. No badge. No uniform. Just a jacket and jeans, and the same cruel smirk he wore the day they first met. Tonight, Grayson set into a phone, pacing back and forth. Everything goes dark. Then we disappear. Jason ducked back, fists clenched. Grayson was here, and that meant the relay was active. He reached for the radio Angela gave him. Relay confirmed. Grayson's on site. Setting charges. Angela's voice came through, calm and steady. Copy that. Reyes is almost in position. I'm 2 minutes from my target. Jason took a breath. This was it. The final move. And just as he stepped toward the relay's side door, a shadow loomed behind him. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Jason turned and came face to face with Officer Reynolds. Jason's breath caught. Reynolds, the officer who had smiled while lying, who had pulled a gun on him at the safe house, who had worn the badge like a costume while serving monsters. He looked the same, tired eyes, stubble on his chin, but this time there was no mask. No pretending, just cold intent. I told them you were a bad idea, Reynolds said calmly, tightening his grip on Jason's shoulder. Said we should have dealt with you a long time ago. Grayson wanted to give you one more chance. I wouldn't have. Jason didn't move. He could feel the pressure of Reynolds' fingers through his hoodie. Let go of me, he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. Reynolds smirked. You think you're some kind of hero? A few files and some internet stories don't change the world, kid. They changed yours, Jason shot back. You're not hiding anymore. You're just exposed. Reynolds leaned closer. You still don't get it, do you? It's not about hiding. It's about control. Power. If we flip the switch tonight, we get all of it back. Jason's eyes darted to the van behind Reynolds. 2 men were pulling a heavy black case from the back. Tools, probably. Or worse. You won't make it to tonight, Jason said. Reynolds tilted his head. Neither will you. He reached for something at his side. Jason moved first. He twisted his body, breaking Reynolds' grip, and slammed his elbow into the officer's ribs. Reynolds grunted and staggered, but recovered fast. Jason ran. Down the alley, across the street, dodging traffic as horns blared, until he reached the side door of the relay building. He jammed the stolen access card from Reyes into the reader. The light blinked green. He dove inside. The building was colder than he remembered. Metal stairs, gray walls, buzzing fluorescent lights. The humming of massive servers echoed through the halls. Jason moved fast. He had studied the map Angela gave him. He knew exactly where the master power junction was located. If he could reach it before Grayson's men wired it with explosives. He turned the corner and nearly slammed into one of them. The man dropped his tool case, surprised. Jason didn't wait. He shoved the man into the wall and ran. The hallway twisted left, then right, then opened into the main room, the power center. Cables lined the walls. A massive panel blinked with red and green lights. And standing in front of it, clipboard in hand, was Officer Grayson. He turned as the door slammed open. Their eyes met. Grayson raised an eyebrow. Well, look who finally grew some teeth. Jason stepped inside, breathing hard. You're finished, he said. It's over. Grayson dropped the clipboard and laughed. Over? This is just the beginning. You think shutting down a few dirty cops means anything? We've been building this for years. You can't stop it. The city needs the chaos. It depends on it. Jason took a step closer. You don't believe that. I believe in order. In control. In fear. Because people don't act right unless they're scared. You've just been too young to see how the world really works. Jason's fists clenched. You're wrong. Fear doesn't fix anything. Fear just breaks people. Grayson rolled his neck. Shame. I liked you. But you should have kept quiet. He reached behind him, pulled out a gun. Jason's breath froze. Grayson aimed, and suddenly the window behind him exploded. Glass rained down as a black shape tackled Grayson from the side, sending both of them crashing to the floor. Angela. She had scaled the fire escape and broken through the window. Grayson twisted under her weight, shouting, struggling, trying to aim. Jason ran forward and kicked the gun out of his hand. It clattered across the floor. Angela and Grayson wrestled, but she was fast, and she knew what she was doing. She slammed her elbow into his throat and pinned him to the ground. Jason stood above them, chest heaving. Grayson looked up at him, blood dripping from his mouth. You think this is over? Jason didn't flinch. No, not until every part of this is gone. Angela zip-tied Grayson's wrists behind his back. Too bad for you. We're just getting started. They moved fast after that. Jason found the detonation devices wired into the main relay. Angela carefully pulled them apart. She'd been trained in field safety, and her hands didn't shake once. Jason radioed Reyes. Relay secure. Grayson's down. What's your status? Reyes's voice crackled. Water plants locked down. Caught 2 of their guys mid-sabotage. Told them a wrench upside the head says hello. Angela smiled. Jason exhaled. Angela, check the news feed. If we can get the footage of Grayson's confession out now, they can't hide it. Angela opened her laptop on the floor. There he was, Grayson. Bloodied. Bruised. Still talking trash as Angela recorded him confessing everything to the agents who arrived minutes later. We air this now, Angela said. Before anyone else disappears. Jason stepped outside the relay station. The sky was a soft orange. Sirens echoed in the distance. But this time, they weren't for him. He pulled out his phone. A text from Reyes popped up. Water secured. No casualties. Proud of you, kid. Jason smiled. But then another message buzzed in. Unknown number. He opened it. You stopped the relay, the water, and the substation. Cute. Jason's blood turned cold. But you missed one. He looked up at Angela, who had gone pale reading the same message on her phone. There's another site, she whispered. Jason stared at her. No, he said slowly. A 4th switch. Angela opened the map again, scanning it desperately. Jason's hands shook as he flipped through the original folder again. Blueprints. Notes. A hidden page near the back, slipped behind another. He pulled it free. And there it was. 4th site, Children's Hospital. Emergency generator access. Power vault underneath. Jason's heart stopped. Angela gasped. Oh my God. It's not just a blackout, Jason said, his voice a whisper. They're trying to kill people. Children. Patients. Nurses. Grayson was just the distraction. Angela snapped her laptop shut. We have to move. Now. Jason grabbed the radio. Reyes. New target. Children's Hospital. They're going for the generator vault. We have no time. Reyes didn't ask questions. Copy. I'm on my way. Jason and Angela raced back toward the car. The sun had barely risen, and now they were running to stop something worse than a blackout. Something that could destroy everything they had fought to protect. Jason looked at Angela as they sped down the road. If we're too late. Angela pressed harder on the gas. We can't be. The car tore through the city streets, tires squealing as Angela wove through morning traffic like it didn't exist. Jason sat stiff in the passenger seat, Haley's stuffed animal still in his lap. He didn't even realize he had brought it. Neither of them spoke. Not until they saw it. The children's hospital loomed ahead, shining in the soft morning sun like it didn't know it was in danger. Kids inside were waking up to cartoons and cereal trays. Nurses were beginning their rounds. Doctors were just stepping into surgery. They had no idea. Angela slammed the car to a stop at the far end of the loading dock. Jason was already out the door before the engine cut off. "We have to find the generator vault," he said, pulling the fourth blueprint from his backpack. Angela joined him, laptop in one hand, comms unit in the other. "The plans say it's beneath the east wing, down 2 levels in the mechanical basement. It connects to the emergency power source. If someone sabotages it," Jason filled in the rest. "Life support systems, incubators, surgical power, everything goes down." Angela looked him in the eyes. "This isn't just about distraction anymore. This is mass murder." Jason's voice hardened. "Then we don't let them get away with it." They sprinted toward the staff entrance, flashing the fake hospital access badges Angela had printed during the drive. A security guard waved them through without question, thankfully unaware of the hell about to unfold. Inside, everything was calm. Too calm. A nurse smiled as they passed. A little boy in pajamas rolled a toy truck across the waiting room floor. Jason's gut twisted. They passed the elevators and slipped into the emergency stairwell. Angela pulled out her radio. "Reyes, you copy?" Crackling. Then Reyes's voice. "Already in the west hallway. No signs yet. Surveillance cams just cut out. Someone's in the system." Jason looked up at Angela. "They're already here." They reached the second sublevel. The hallway down here was cold and dimly lit. Pipes ran along the ceiling, leaking steam in places. A red sign on the far wall read, "Generator access. Authorized personnel only." Angela and Jason ran toward it. Just as they reached the door, it opened, and 2 men stepped out, both in hospital maintenance uniforms. But the guns in their hands said otherwise. Jason and Angela skidded to a halt. The taller man raised his weapon. "Back up. Now." Angela stepped in front of Jason, slowly raising her hands. "You don't want to do this. You have no idea what's already in motion," the man growled. Jason glanced to the side and saw a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall. His mind raced. Angela kept their attention. "You take out the power in this hospital, people die? Kids die. You think that's going to make the city bow to Roe?" The man hesitated, just for a second. Jason moved. He grabbed the extinguisher, pulled the pin, and blasted it forward. A cloud of white foam exploded between them. Shouts. Coughing. Angela dropped low and swept the leg of the shorter man, slamming him to the floor. Jason ran past the foam cloud into the vault hallway. Alarms blared as he turned the corner. He saw it immediately. A black device, thick, ugly, wired directly into the main generator panel. A red light blinked on its side. A digital timer. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Jason's heart stopped. Less than 3 minutes. Angela ran in after him, gasping. "They said it already?" Jason nodded, already ripping open the cover. He'd seen this kind of bomb in the files Angela showed him last night. Not military grade, homemade, crude, but deadly. He remembered how the feds described it. Cut the wrong wire, the circuit closes anyway. Boom. Angela looked at the timer. "Can you disarm it?" Jason stared at the mess of red, green, and yellow wires. I don't know." He reached for his phone. No signal in the basement. The concrete walls were too thick. Angela touched his shoulder. "I trust you." Jason looked up at her. "No pressure, right?" He tried to joke, but his voice cracked. He took a deep breath. Focused. The way Mr. Reyes taught him to fix broken fans at school. One connection at a time. He reached for the red wire, then stopped. The green one fed into a power loop. The yellow wire was linked to a receiver. His eyes widened. "They want me to cut the red." Angela leaned closer. "How do you know?" "Because it's too easy." Jason followed the wires, tracing the current with his eyes. He saw it. A double trigger wired into the yellow loop. It would trip if either of the others were disconnected. He reached in, hands shaking. Timer, 39 seconds. Jason yanked the green wire and the yellow one at the same time. The timer stopped. 12 seconds. Silence. Angela gasped. "You did it." Jason sat back, shaking. "I did it." Upstairs, the entire hospital had gone into lockdown. Nurses were moving patients. Security guards swarmed the exits. Reyes met them just outside the stairwell, breathing hard. "You okay?" he asked. Jason nodded. "Yeah." Angela was already pulling up the footage from her body camera. "We have everything." Them planting the device. The takedown. The timer. The whole thing. Reyes looked at Jason. "You just saved an entire hospital." Jason didn't answer. He was looking past them, toward the glass doors of the lobby, where a man in a dark trench coat was being escorted out in cuffs. "Dale Rowe." Captured. Angela turned, stunned. How did they? Jason's phone buzzed. A message from Rachel Turner. He came out of hiding the second he thought you failed. We were waiting. He walked right into us. Jason showed the screen to Angela. She let out a breath. We got him. Jason looked at her. Then at Reyes. Then back at the hospital. No, he said. We didn't. Everyone did. Luis. Mr. Reyes's son. Haley. My mom. You. Me. He smiled. They just never expected a bunch of ordinary people to fight back. Angela grinned. Reyes put a hand on Jason's shoulder. Sirens echoed again, but this time they were fading, getting quieter. The city was waking up, and for the first time in weeks, it wasn't afraid. The city had begun to breathe again. For the first time in what felt like forever, there were no more whispers of shadow deals in back alleys. No more fear in the eyes of people who knew something but were too scared to say it. The storm was passing, and the boy who started it all was standing in the center of it, watching as the light finally broke through the clouds. Jason stood outside the children's hospital as the sun fully rose, casting golden light across the city skyline. Behind him, Reyes was on the phone with federal agents coordinating Rose's transfer. Angela was uploading the final footage to national news stations. Rachel Turner had sent word. The city would know everything by nightfall. But Jason's heart wasn't calm. Not yet. Not until he saw her. A car pulled up on the curb. The door swung open, and Haley ran straight into his arms. Jason. He dropped to his knees, catching her like he always did, pressing his face into her hair. I told you. He whispered, voice cracking. I told you I'd find you. Their mom stepped out of the car next, eyes puffy from crying. She rushed over and wrapped them both in her arms. I thought I lost you, she whispered into Jason's ear. You didn't, he said. I just had to finish something first. Reporters were already gathering nearby, cameras flashing, voices rising. Angela gently waved them off. Give them a moment, she said firmly. The hero deserves peace. That night, the news went live. 15-year-old boy dismantles citywide crime network. Cleveland officer and crime lord arrested in stunning takedown. They played the footage. Grayson's face as he ranted about control. Reynolds being dragged into a federal van. Dale Rose's smug smile fading as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. They even aired Jason's words, recorded just after he disarmed the hospital bomb. Fear doesn't fix anything. Fear just breaks people. The country watched and listened. But Jason wasn't watching. He was sitting on the rooftop of the rec center with Haley beside him and Mr. Reyes on a folding chair. Angela sat on the ledge, sipping cold coffee, watching the stars slowly emerge. So, Reyes said after a long silence, what now? Jason shrugged. Back to school, I guess. Angela snorted. After saving an entire city, I think you're allowed to skip one test. Jason smiled. But inside, he was still thinking, still putting things together. Because even though Roe was arrested and Grayson and Reynolds were facing life in prison, there were still pieces that didn't fit. Like the message he got during the blackout. It's not over. He never found out who sent it. Or who else had been watching. He didn't bring it up. Not yet. But the thought never left. A few weeks later, the mayor of Cleveland held a public ceremony in front of City Hall. Jason didn't want to go at first. Too many cameras. Too many people staring. But Angela convinced him. Heroes don't always wear capes, she said. But sometimes they still deserve to stand in the light. So he went. Wore a suit that didn't quite fit. Haley fixed his tie 3 times. His mom cried the whole time. When it was his turn to speak, he stepped up to the podium, hands shaking a little, but voice strong. I'm not a hero, he said. I'm just someone who didn't want to be scared anymore. He paused, looked out at the crowd. I couldn't keep quiet. Not when kids were being hurt. Not when families were being destroyed. I had to speak up, even if my voice shook. A long silence. Then thunderous applause. Jason smiled, but only for a second. Because in the crowd, past the flashes of cameras and the waving flags, someone stood completely still. A man in a black baseball cap. Sunglasses. Head tilted slightly. Watching. Jason's eyes narrowed. The man gave a tiny nod. Then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Jason blinked. He wanted to chase after him, but something stopped him. Angela stepped beside him and whispered, Everything okay? Jason hesitated, then slowly said, I think it's just starting. That night, Jason stood by the window in their apartment. The city lights twinkled like stars flipped upside down. Haley was asleep. His mom, too. And as he looked out into the quiet, he reached for his notebook. The original one. The one that started it all. He opened it, flipped past the old drawings, the maps, the witness notes, until he reached the last page. It was blank. He stared at it, then slowly wrote, "This is where the story ends." He paused. Then underneath it, he wrote, "Or maybe, where the next one begins." He closed the notebook gently, because Jason Walker wasn't just the boy who pointed at a police officer in court. He was the boy who stood up, who fought back, who proved the truth mattered, even when it was dangerous. And somewhere out there, something darker might still be waiting. But now it knew one thing for sure. This city wasn't going to be quiet anymore. Not as long as Jason was watching. The nightmares came back. Jason hadn't had them since Roe was arrested. For a while, things felt normal. School resumed. The teachers welcomed him back like a hero, and Haley's smile returned. The media had moved on to new stories, new headlines. But that didn't mean it was over. In the dream, Jason was standing in the courtroom again, just like before. The judge, the jury, the whispering crowd. Except this time, when he pointed his finger, no sound came out. His mouth moved, but nothing escaped his throat. Then Officer Grayson stood up. Behind him, Reynolds. Behind them, Roe. Behind them, someone else. Someone in shadow. The entire courtroom turned to face Jason. They didn't move. They didn't blink. Just stared. Jason turned to run, but the floor gave out beneath him. And he woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat. It was 3:14 a.m. He sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. The apartment was quiet. Haley was snoring in the room next to his. His mom had a late shift, but should be home soon. Jason stood and walked to the window. Rain tapped gently against the glass. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Jason's stomach dropped. He stared at the screen. The message read, "You missed one." Jason's heart pounded. He opened the message. "The game isn't over, Jason. You just reset the board." Then nothing. No sender. No reply option. The message vanished seconds later like it had never existed. Jason sat down, stunned. "Who?" he whispered. He opened his old notebook again. The one he hadn't touched since the city honored him at City Hall. The one he thought he had closed for good. He flipped to the last page. Or maybe, where the next one begins. He stared at it, then reached for his pen. Underneath it, he wrote, Chapter 2, The Silent Players. Jason didn't tell Angela the next morning. Not yet. She had finally been offered her own investigative series on Channel 9. She was flying to D.C. for a national segment. She deserved peace. He didn't tell Reyes, either. He was working again at the rec center, now mentoring kids. Teaching boxing. Fixing up the place. He smiled more now. Jason didn't want to worry anyone. So instead, he searched on his own. The message didn't trace. He tried every trick Angela had taught him. VPN routing, metadata hunting, cross-device checking. Nothing. It was a ghost. But the words haunted him. You missed one. What did that mean? He pulled out all the files again. All the photos. The notes. He reread his own handwriting line by line. Then he saw it. A name circled twice. One he had glossed over before. J. Thorne. A retired judge. One of Roe's early investors, according to a financial record buried in the middle of Angela's backup binder. A check written for $25,000 to a company Jason now recognized as a shell business Roe used for laundering money. Jason remembered Angela saying once. Thorne vanished before Roe was taken down. Claimed he was traveling. No one's seen him since. Now the name glared back at Jason like a spotlight in the dark. Could he be the one? That weekend, Jason made a quiet trip to the city archives. No cameras. No escort. Just a hoodie and his old backpack. The kind of trip he hadn't taken since all of this started. He dug through real estate records, business licenses, property transfers, and there it was. 3 months before the takedown of Roe, Judge Jonathan Thorne had transferred ownership of a property downtown to a company called Black Halo Group LLC. The building? An old federal post office, now abandoned. Jason's fingers tightened around the page. He took a bus to the site later that day. It looked empty from the outside. Windows boarded, fence rusted. But when he pressed his ear to the door, he heard something. Voices. Not loud. Careful. Sharp. Jason took out his phone. Started recording. He crept around the side and climbed through a broken window into the lower level. The air smelled of mold and dust. But down the hall, past the old mailroom, he saw them. 3 men in suits. One of them turned slightly, and Jason saw his face. Judge Thorne. Alive. Meeting with 2 others, one older man with a sharp silver beard, and another younger, holding a tablet and wearing what looked like tactical gear under his coat. Jason ducked back. They were planning something. Restructure the network, one of them said. Phase 2 needs to look legitimate. Thorne replied, keep the kid out of it. He thinks it's over. He's just a boy. The man with the tablet said quietly. That's what Roe thought too. Jason's eyes widened. Another operation. Another network. Bigger. Smarter. More hidden. They weren't rebuilding what Jason broke. They were evolving it. Jason slipped out quietly and didn't stop running until he was 5 blocks away. He called Angela immediately. Voicemail. He called Reyes. Straight to voicemail, too. His mind raced. Phase 2. Keep the kid out of it. Jason was already in it. He'd never left. He got back home and locked the door behind him. Haley was watching a movie on the couch, eating cereal with a blanket over her shoulders. Everything okay? She asked. Jason forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. He sat beside her and stared at the screen. His mind wasn't on the movie. It was on the abandoned post office. On Thorne. On Phase 2. He opened his notebook again. He turned to a new page. At the top, he wrote, Operation Blackout, Phase 2. He drew 3 boxes and started filling them in. 1. Thorne, confirmed alive. 2. New faces, unknown roles. 3. Black Halo Group, find ownership trail. He paused, then added a 4th box. 4. No one is coming to save us this time. Jason looked at his sister, then back at the page. He wasn't just a boy pointing at a bad cop anymore. He was the last person standing between the city and a monster that learned how to wear a better mask. And if they thought he'd stop now, they didn't know Jason Walker. Rain fell in soft sheets across the city as Jason stood under the flickering street lamp outside the old rec center. It had been 6 days since he saw Judge Thorne alive. 6 days since he overheard them speaking about Phase 2, the silent rebuild of a criminal empire Jason thought he had destroyed. But this time, there were no feds watching. No Angela, no Rachel, no backup teams waiting for the right moment. He had tried calling Angelo again. Still no answer. Reyes had gone off the grid, too. His house was dark. No one answered the door. No sign of a struggle, just gone. Jason felt like he had stepped into a shadow where all the people who once stood beside him had quietly vanished. Just like Thorne planned. He looked down at his phone. A new text glowed on the screen. Tonight, 10 p.m., come alone. 144 East Docks. Bring the notebook. Jason didn't reply. He'd already made up his mind. He returned home first. Told his mom he was staying over at Luis's house. Luis had come back to school recently. His charges cleared after Jason exposed the truth. Jason knew his mom wouldn't question it. She was just happy he was sleeping better, smiling again. But he wasn't. Not really. He told Haley goodnight and gave her a tighter hug than usual. Why are your eyes all serious? She asked, squinting at him like a detective. Jason laughed softly. Just thinking too hard again. You're always thinking, she said. Maybe tomorrow you can think about getting ice cream with me instead. Jason nodded. I'd like that. At 9:42 p.m., Jason walked alone toward the East Docks. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with mist. The location wasn't just a random spot. Jason recognized it immediately when he saw it in the text. It was the same warehouse where Roe made his first deal, the one Jason had seen from behind a dumpster months ago. Back then, Jason was just a kid who stumbled onto something dark. Now he was walking straight into it. On purpose. The warehouse was dark inside, lit only by flickering utility lights mounted to concrete pillars. Jason stepped through the open door and into a wide space filled with crates, metal containers, and the faint hum of electricity. And there, near the center, was Judge Thorne. He stood behind a table with a briefcase on top. 2 men flanked him, one with a shaved head and a scar across his nose, the other holding what was clearly a weapon beneath his coat. Thorne smiled when he saw Jason. I was hoping you'd come. Jason didn't respond. He pulled the notebook from his backpack and held it up. You wanted this? Thorne took a step forward. It's not about what's in the notebook. It's about what it represents. Jason narrowed his eyes. Truth. Control. Thorne said softly. The ability to shape stories. Rewrite heroes. Bury enemies. You don't realize how powerful you've become, Jason. Jason dropped the notebook on the floor between them. I'm not powerful, he said. But I'm not afraid anymore, either. Thorn looked genuinely disappointed. That's a shame. You could have been useful. But like all children, you mistake courage for wisdom. He gave a nod. The scar-faced man stepped forward. But before he could reach Jason, boom, a blinding light filled the warehouse as smoke erupted from the far wall. Flashbang. Voices shouted through the haze. Federal agents. Hands in the air. Jason dove behind a crate as chaos erupted. Shouting. Gunfire. Screams. He rolled onto his stomach just in time to see the armed man with the coat go down, tackled by 2 agents. Thorn tried to run, but someone stepped out of the smoke. Angela. Tired. Soaked. Her coat ripped. But alive. She pointed a gun at Thorn. Going somewhere, Judge? He froze. Jason stood slowly. Angela's voice cracked. I couldn't reach you. They shut down everything. Took out my power. Fried my laptop. Tried to erase me. But they forgot one thing. She turned to Jason. You. Jason's eyes burned. You were alive? Angela nodded. Barely. They knew where I'd be. I got out just in time. Traced the message on your phone to this warehouse. I had backup watching. Thorn dropped to his knees, hands behind his head. You think this stops the machine? He growled. We're everywhere. A new name. A new building. A new face. Jason stepped forward. No. Because now people are watching. The silence is broken. And we're not going to stop speaking. The rest happened fast. Thorn was arrested. His men were taken down. Evidence from Jason's original notebook, along with new files recovered from the warehouse, confirmed the existence of Phase 2. With it came more arrests, more takedowns, and more truth flooding the headlines. Angela returned to Channel 9 with the story of the year. Reyes showed up 2 days later, bruised but alive. He had been ambushed, but fought his way free. And Jason? Jason stood once again in front of his school. This time, not as a suspect, or a whisper, or a ghost in the back row, but as a survivor. As the kid who pointed at a police officer in court, and never stopped pointing. 1 week later, he walked into the rec center again, this time to teach kids how to box. Reyes handed him his own set of gloves. Never thought I'd see the day, Reyes said, grinning. Jason laughed. Me either. And when Haley came in later, jumping rope and showing off, Jason sat back and smiled. Finally, the city was healing. Not perfect, not safe forever, but healing. That night, Jason opened his notebook one last time. He flipped through the worn pages. He smiled at the scratchy handwriting, the taped photos, the chaos that once felt so overwhelming. Then he reached the back page and wrote, "The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs people who care enough to speak up, even when their voice shakes." He closed the notebook, locked it in his drawer, and turned off the light. Because for the first time, there were no more monsters under his bed. And even if there were, Jason Walker wasn't afraid of the dark anymore.